Hello, everybody. Welcome to episode 16 of Radio Europa. My name's Laura. I'm your host from over in England. And today I'm with William in England and Darth in Scotland. So today we're going to speak about the Brett Kavanaugh case because it's dominated the news in recent weeks. And we don't usually talk about news from the States, but we thought we would today and break fashion and do something a bit different. So Darth, I know that you've been following this case in quite some detail. Would you be able to give us an overview of what's been happening and where we are today, please?
Hi guys, yeah, certainly, sure. So Brett Kavanaugh has been the nominee for the Supreme Court. On the 9th of July, he was announced by President Trump as a replacement for Justice Anthony Kennedy. On the 30th of July, sorry, I'm getting my timeline here. On the 30th of July, Christine Blasey Ford, Professor of Psychology, sends a letter to Dianne Feinstein, the highest Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee. The letter contains an allegation that Kavanaugh physically and sexually assaulted her when she was 15 at a high school party. There is no time, date or location that the allegation is supposed to have taken place. The letter is not disclosed to anybody at Ford's request. August 10th, the Senate Judiciary, Chuck Grassley, Republican, announces that the confirmation hearing for Kavanaugh will begin on the 4th of September. Democrats allege that Republicans are trying to rush the nomination without allowing all of Kavanaugh's tenure as attorney for the George Bush administration to be analysed. The September 4th to 7th, Kavanaugh testifies for 3 days in front of Senate Judicial Committee. On the fourth day, other witnesses testify and legal experts are also brought in. No allegations are brought forward regarding Ford's allegation. September 12th, Dianne Feinstein sends a letter that Ford gave to her to the FBI. This is after several days of rumours surrounding the existence of the letter, which were leaked out by Democrat senators, clearly meaning that Feinstein did not keep the letter or allegation a secret. The FBI puts the letter in Kavanaugh's background check file, but does not start a criminal investigation due to the fact that the statute of limitation on the alleged sexual allegation expired many years previously, and I believe it's actually after a year, and the FBI doesn't have jurisdiction to do an investigation into this anyway, as it's not a federal crime. September 14th, the allegation surfaces in the press for the first time through the New Yorker magazine. Ford's name is not included in this article. Kavanaugh immediately denies the allegation and that there is no mention of the White House to pull him from the nomination. September 16th, Washington Post publishes an interview with Ford where her name is released to the general public with her permission. She makes the allegation that she was at a high school party within a house, to note that there's no further details of this, whereby she was pinned down by Kavanaugh, who was alleged to be heavily intoxicated. He is then alleged to have tried to take off her clothes, covered her mouth to stifle her screams. She states that she feared he would unintentionally kill her due to this. Kavanaugh again denies. No time, date or location of this incident is released. The next few days take place. Basically, there's a hearing has been decided, and there's the confirmation of Kavanaugh has been pulled. There's basically a delay in when the hearing takes place due to Ford saying that she's unable to attend prior to the 24th. A date is agreed on the 27th. Kavanaugh is confirmed to testify after Ford will. The same day, a second allegation surfaces by the New Yorker by a name of Deborah Ramirez. This allegation is supposed to have taken place between 1983 and 84. The allegation is that he exposed himself to her in a dormitory party at Yale University by, quote, thrusting his penis in her face. However, she does admit that she had saw a rubber penis in her face and thereafter observed Kavanaugh pulling up his trousers. She also admits that she was heavily intoxicated during this incident. Michael Avenatti, Stormy Daniels' lawyer, then tweets that he has report of a third allegation. Jump to September 24th. Kavanaugh states he won't be intimidated to withdraw from the process. President Trump formally backs Kavanaugh and states that this is a totally political move to get Kavanaugh stopped. A lawyer from Deborah Ramirez says he's pushing for an FBI investigation of his client, claims that Kavanaugh assaulted her. Jump to September 26th. Third woman comes forward to accuse Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct in a sworn statement. She basically says that she witnessed gang rapes take place, a group of boys lined up outside rooms of girls, and states that Mark Judge, Brett Kavanaugh's pal, and Brett Kavanaugh were within these lines. Kavanaugh again denies. Jump to September 27th, Kavanaugh and Ford testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee. Ford states that the allegation of sexual assault took place in the 1980s. Kavanaugh and Ford are both emotional during the evidence. During the hearing, no further evidence comes to light about the incident. A date, time and location are still not established. And we're pretty much up to today's date. The Senate Judiciary Committee has moved ahead with a hearing on Kavanaugh. This was on September 28th. If the committee approves the nomination, it is moved to a full Senate. However, I believe an FBI investigation is going to be launched now to make witness statements, to speak to various witnesses who have alleged to have heard what's going on. And I'll stop there because I realise I've talked for quite a long time.
Okay. It's been news from the United States too closely. Obviously, at Defend Europa, we only focus on Europe, and it takes up so much time trying to keep on top of all those. It's just been all over social media, hasn't it, for the last couple of weeks? You haven't been able to escape it, really. And a lot of the people that I'm mutuals with on Twitter have been supporting Kavanaugh. But I did actually go look at some tweets from like feminists and the whole Me Too movement and everything, and it's absolutely crazy. I don't know if this is in America, the way that they're responding to it. I mean, over in Britain we firmly do have the innocent until proven guilty thing, don't we? But over in the States, they're like just like this rabid kind of pack of crazy women saying that he's guilty, and they don't seem to want to really. William, have you seen any of that on social media at all? The people that just seem to kind of want to lock him up forever without any testimonies and any evidence.
Yeah, hi everybody. This is a thing that I've taken from it. Really, the key point, because of course it's easy to sort of look through it and think that these women on social media are crazy, which I'm sure many of them are, but. The sinister aspect of this is you see multinational news publications who are demanding that we believe this woman, and that regardless of any investigation, that we believe her, and we assume that Brett Kavanaugh is guilty because women are noble and virtuous and never lie. And that is worrying, because it's a departure from what we've always known to be the case, which is innocent until proven guilty. But I think, that is the sinister element of it.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, you've had various celebrities coming forward saying, we believe Ford, we must believe women, believe women. And the thing is, what annoys me most of all is that it seems to be this movement of any calls for evidence on any allegation must mean that you're then a misogynist and a rape apologist, just because you're saying, let's have a fair look at this instead of just believing a woman on merit of the fact that she has made an allegation, because women and men have been known to make false allegations in the past in these kind of things. And unfortunately, with a lot of these rapes, especially historical rapes, once there's no DNA there, and if there's no witnesses there, it is literally one person's word against another. And what they're effectively saying is, well, a woman must be believed because she's a woman. And that's borderline. No, it is just being sexist. We must believe a woman because women are apparently automatic victims, just because of their sex.
Yeah, I think you've got to get the. You don't want to downplay the seriousness of anyone's personal experiences, and if they're saying that they've gone through something which is horrible, you want to believe them, but also you don't want to blame someone and accuse somebody of doing something when there's no evidence of it. And I've been trying to follow it quite logically just by reading people's tweets and kind of looking at, and there are a couple of things there, like I think she didn't she said that the attack happened, and then she was still going back to these parties afterwards. It does kind of just make you think, like, why are you saying things like this? It's just not really helping the court case. Sorry, was that William or Darth? Were you going to say something?
Oh yeah, I'll jump in on that, because I think, just sort of going back to what Darth said on that about that we should automatically assume that somebody's telling the truth. It's kind of, I get the impression that these people who are saying this, they have a vision of the law which isn't true. So it doesn't meet their friendly, nice bunnies and flowers stereotype, and they don't like the fact that the law doesn't give a shit how you feel. The law is the law, and if you make an accusation, you have to be prepared to be investigated yourself. You have to be prepared for people to assume that you're a liar until you can prove it. And people don't like it, but it's the same whether you're talking about rape or murder or assault or anything. You have to understand that even as a victim, you will be dragged through the procedure, because that's the rule of law.
Yeah, and on that, one of the arguments being made against Ford giving evidence of her report and allegation was, they were saying, well, you're attacking her by examining her allegation. Just believe her. Don't question her, and don't assume that there's any dubiety about her allegation. Just believe her. And we're getting to the point where we're dangerously close to advocating for the withdrawal of corroboration in legal cases, or in any kind of case that involves the law. It's very, very easy to, or it's very, very clear to see that it's this feelings over facts concept that has crept into law. I mean, you look at this with hate crime, you look at this with any kind of prejudice incident that comes to the eyes of the police or the courts. Somebody's feelings are hurt, therefore they must there must be a charge put forward. And especially third wave feminists are basically saying this woman must be believed because she has cried on television whilst giving evidence. Well, just because she's emotional doesn't mean that this has happened. In all honesty, I believe that something has happened to her, but she can't give a date, she can't give a time, she can't give a location of where this happened, she can't confirm who dropped her off, who picked her up, because she's allegedly 15 at this time. So, she should know who picked her up, she should know who dropped her off, she should have an idea of when and where this happened, but she can't give any details of that. All she can give is a pretty, descriptive detail of what Kavanaugh is supposed to have done to her. And that's it. She can't remember anything else, she can't remember any other details when questioned, which therefore gives me a lot of doubt as to the credibility of her allegation.
Yeah, and the people that really are pushing her story and her case just don't really seem to be willing to investigate the evidence. Like I mentioned about the date, saying that then she carried on going back to these parties for 2 years. That all this information needs to be put on the table and investigated. And it does seem to me that it's just extremely politically motivated, and the people that are pushing it are clearly against Kavanaugh. They keep mentioning things like he was drinking a lot in his youth, like that's connected to, I don't know why they're mentioning that. And they're also saying things like was in court, he was really angry, he's not a nice guy. And it's like, well, of course he's going to be angry. I'd be angry too if you were doing that to me. And I've also seen a lot of tweets of people saying, just like criticising him for being an old white man and just saying, oh, another old white man, we need to crush the patriarchy and all that stuff. But these people, the hypocrisy that really annoys me is that a lot of British people have been saying these things, but when we had extreme cases of things happening like Rotherham over in Britain, it just wasn't the same, was it? They weren't tweeting about it constantly, saying we need to believe the victims and we need to support the victims. They just seem to pick and choose their battles and choose ones that work towards their political aims, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I totally agree. And there seems to be an obvious divide between who's believed and who's not. Even amongst the senators who are involved in this inquiry, Cory Booker, he admits has written a piece about attempting to grope a female in his youth and was thereafter rebuffed and tried again to grope a female's breast. And then you've got Keith Ellison, who I think is the second top DNC member, has 2 allegations of domestic assault by 2 former girlfriends, one of them being a female, Karen Monaghan. She alleges to have a tape of Ellison abusing her, and her son has allegedly found this tape on her computer. So that alone there is more evidence of alleged abuse by Keith Ellison than the alleged incident that's taken place with Ford and Kavanaugh. But the media effectively report in a very, very biased manner. Keith Ellison, why should he be further investigated? He's denied it, therefore, that should be enough. But, Kavanaugh has denied it, but, we must believe women and we must believe this, but it's only, we must believe women effectively, from my observation, is when it is a woman who is on the left and the accused is on the right. When it's on the flip side, there seems to be a lot less continuity in the allegations and the investigations that take place.
Yeah, if the perpetrator is a straight white man, then it's definitely something that they'll talk about, isn't it?
Yeah, there is a massive hypocrisy there. But I also think to anybody who follows US politics, it should be quite transparent, really, because as most people will know, they've got the midterms coming up, and the Democrats are just trying to delay until they can get a majority. I'm not quite sure how it works, but they can get a majority in one house or other so that they can block any future Supreme Court nominations.
Yeah, you've got basically the midterm elections. So every 2 years, I think it's the Senate members are up for re-election, and the Democrats are basically hoping that this midterm, the Republicans are going to lose their numeral advantage, and therefore they will be able to block another Conservative Supreme Court nominee. So if they draw this out to the point where till November, when this takes place, they can stop Kavanaugh from being nominated, even if he's found completely not guilty of these allegations. And I think this FBI investigation is solely that. It's just a delay. There's no other reason for it, because, like I've said already, there's less evidence for this allegation than many others that have come to the light of the media. And to my understanding, this is something that the FBI shouldn't be investigating anyway, because it's not a federal crime.
Yeah, there are a lot of inconsistencies like that. And it's starting to look like that sexual assault accusations are now the weapon of choice to dispose of political opponents, because you see it here as well in the UK when the media said, "Oh, Boris Johnson's making a move for the leadership," the next day it was, "Oh, he's a sexual deviant," basically. And it seems as if that anybody the Liberals don't like, rather than calling them a communist like they would have done in the 50s, they call them a sexual predator, in the knowledge that carries a lot more weight than anything factual or political.
And we're at the point now where all it takes is a single allegation. It doesn't matter if there's no evidence to it. Or, if a political figure or a public figure is alleged to have committed a sexual offence, you can guarantee that their job, their career is effectively over, their name is destroyed, their reputation is destroyed. It doesn't matter whether, it's found to be, made up, or whether the person is found to be innocent of said allegation. People will automatically assume that they are guilty simply because the allegation has been made. And there's an enormous amount of hysteria pushes this, and it changes people's minds simply because there's hysteria, because there is an alleged victim, therefore there should be justice because this allegation has been made. It doesn't matter whether there's no evidence or not. We should just believe them.
Yeah, the damage is you're found guilty or not, isn't it? It's if that person's somebody that you don't like, then people are always going to dig that information up and say, well, they were found to be innocent, but they've got this history of doing that. And I just think it's awful, really. It reminds me, it's a completely unrelated topic, but it reminds me of like the story of Cheddar Man in the UK, where the media picked it up and they were like, oh, ancient Britons used to be black, and they ran with it for ages. And then when it turned out to be a hoax, obviously they didn't report that, but the damage is already done. The story's out there, people believe it, and people still reference it now. And I think whatever happens with Kavanaugh, people are always going to reference it in the future. Sorry, William, you go.
No, I was just gonna echo what you said, because it is like you said with anything. Once the first story is out there, any retraction, and the media know this, that any retraction will be largely ignored. So, sorry, carry on anyway, I interrupted.
No, I was going to just ask you guys, become a little bit more close than I have. What are the timescales? Can you just confirm for us, Darth, what are the timescales for the next steps?
Well, I think there was... Yeah, I don't know to be exact. I mean, an FBI investigation, it could take, a couple of days, or it could take several weeks. I think basically the idea is to take this as long as possible. So I think the elections take place early November, and obviously the US 2016 election took place on the 8th, I think, the 8th or 9th of November. So I imagine it'll be in and around there again. But if the FBI is going to, do the kind of investigation that the Democrats want them to do, they'll be taking statements for every single person who is alleged to have been involved in these incidents. They'll have to interview them, they'll have to write down their statements or record them, they'll have to cross-examine them, they'll have to interview Kavanaugh under caution, I'd imagine. So I don't know how long it's going to take. I think I heard rumours that it might take a week, it might take 2 weeks. If that's the case and Kavanaugh is found not to be guilty of these incidents, then I imagine he will get confirmed, but that's still up in the air right now.
Okay, that's great. Any other podcasts? Because I know we don't usually speak about American news. It's back to Defend Europe to find out what the outcome is. But can you recommend any podcasts or news websites from our states that might be reporting on this from our point?
Well, I mean, the ones that I tend to follow, and obviously they're not, they're probably not popular even among some of the people on Defend Europa. I listen to Louder with Crowder. This is Stephen Crowder's YouTube page. Stefan Molyneux, he covers a lot of these incidents quite a lot on his YouTube channel. And the other one, I listen to various members in the Daily Wire YouTube channel. They also do a podcast as well. So you've got quite a few guys in there. All of them have been covering this heavily. Most of their shows, are taken up by these, the covering of this. So they will cover it, and, they're released on a daily basis.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you for that. I think we've covered everything, really. Do you guys have any other questions or anything you want to cover, or should we wrap it up?
Well, I think if I can just say one thing, it's that people have to be quite wary now, because they're not all liberals, but the enemy, if you like, is really trying to turn the screw on right-wing politics. So, if you have any aspirations to go into politics, start keeping a diary, and every day you have an interaction with a woman you don't know, write it down and keep a record of this, because you never know when, in 20 years' time, you stand for election somewhere, and then they wheel out this random woman who you met for 10 minutes in a coffee shop, and they'll say, oh, he raped me. So seriously, guys, be on your guard against this stuff.
And the other thing which the Vice President has been made fun of for doing is he never is alone with a woman in his office. He never goes into an office with another woman on his own, and he's mocked for this. But, it shows, these things happen, and, you can't then refute it, because it's your word against theirs. So, why should your word be believed over theirs, and vice versa, simply because you say it didn't happen and they say it does happen? You can't have anything further take place if you've got no evidence to the contrary.
Yeah, I remember when that story came out about him not having dinner with women, and the left-wing Twitter crowd were actually taking the mick out of him for not dining with women, saying that but then they're the ones that will turn you if there is an allegation against you. So he's wise to do it. And William, what you just said then about tracking all your interactions, it sounds very drastic, but I really do just feel sorry for men at the moment. There just seems to be allegations and lads just thrown around left, right and centre. Okay, I'm going to pass over to William to close the show.
Yeah, so before we finish up, I just want to tell everybody that we've got a new and improved website coming soon, so stay tuned for notices about that on Twitter. We'll be talking about it very soon. Also, as we said in a previous show, we're totally funded by you guys. No donations go to us personally; they all go to supporting the project. So, if you'd like to help us out a little bit, then there's some links to PayPal and Bitcoin in the description. Other than that, thank you very much for listening. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, guys.
Cheers,
Bye,
guys.
everyone.